Happy to have you joining us. We're going to wait just a few more seconds to let the last guests of today's webinar start to file in, and then we will get into the day's content. Hope that everybody's settings are okay and that the audio and the video is working just fine. If not, you have a settings button that you can be able to check out, and please make sure that you are allowing the audio and video to be able to stream. Then again, if you can't hear me, you wouldn't be able to have that information from me anyways. So hope that everybody can hear me well. The clock has now struck 15:00, 3 p.m. Central European time, 2 p.m. UK time, and I think that it's time to get into today's session. Thank you all for taking the time to be able to join me. My name is Sam Jenks. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Kodiak Hub, and I will be guiding you guys today through how we can help you to be able to go from reactive to proactive within your SRM. And the focus today, hopefully, is to be able to make sure that you guys can leave with some real life applications, not only to be able to make sure that you can entice others in the organization to know the value of SRM, but also that you can make sure to take those necessary steps that there are to be able to move your SRM from being reactive to being proactive. We know, of course, that this is not a easy journey, but we're here to hopefully help you, to educate you a bit, but also to inspire you a bit as well. For today's session, the agenda is as follows. We're going to first dive into the meaning. What do we mean when we talk about proactive SRM? We're also going to talk a little bit about the thing that I think is a hot potato subject, right? Which is really ensuring that those in attendance today know how to talk about the ROI and the value levers associated with SRM to your management team or to your board, right? It's one of those elements that I think many procurement organizations struggle to be able to build a really solid business case for. We want to help to give you some of that language that will resonate as well. We'll also talk, of course, about supplier relationship management as a role, as a program, as a process, also related back to technology, but of course, focusing in on the fact that, this particular discipline isn't something that just ends at the contract signature. It's an end-to-end and a life cycle approach, and we need to treat it as such. And we have also a few quick tips on how we believe you can be able to create some quick wins, taking you from reactive to proactive. Some of those things, of course, which are going to be a little bit more midterm or long-term achievements or goals, but also some of those things that can also be some low-hanging fruit in the way that you're working today. Without further ado, then, let's get directly into today's content. And it's interesting because while we're hosting this webinar today, this webinar really started, in fact, I would say a few months ago, towards the beginning of this year, in fact. An event in Germany, our team hosted a roundtable. And we asked the 30 plus practitioners during the two different roundtables that we had, who are all coming from global multinationals, what does proactive SRM look like? And these were some of the responses that they gave. It was important that proactive SRM had risk mitigation involved, that there was an opportunity to be able to develop collaborative opportunities and innovate, that there was opportunities to be able to drive innovation together, that they could be able to create savings in strategic activities, and that there was a long-term thinking, right? Rather than just focusing on quick wins or quick savings, but really that it was a life cycle approach to proactive SRM. More so than anything, though, it was important for them to be able to get insights, right? And be able to react upon those. As our founder often says, Malin Schmidt, procurement is drowning in information and starved for knowledge. And being more proactive in your supplier management is about, of course, creating insights to be able to actually drive actions within the supplier base as well. Just a few months earlier to this particular roundtable that we hosted in Germany, we did a survey during one of our webinars. That particular webinar, we surveyed the attendance. It was 100 plus practitioners in attendance during that webinar, a very highly attended webinar that was focused on building out 360-degree supplier scorecards. And we asked those in attendance, what kind of technology that they were leveraging to manage suppliers today. 76% of those respondents came back and said that they were still stuck in some type of an Excel hell or just using homegrown solutions to really inch by and be very reactive within their supplier management when they needed to manage suppliers. The thing that I would love to do to just get a little bit of a feel of the temperature of those that are in the room today and understand everybody's current state, your current level of maturity when it comes to supplier relationship management, and also, of course, supplier relationship management related to technology, is to ask the same question here. What are the solutions that you're using today? And let me just launch this. So could you please take a moment to answer the poll that is on screen now? What are the solutions that you're utilizing? Are you yourself stuck in this Excel hell? And of course, if that is the case, it is nothing to be ashamed of. We saw, of course, in the last year's session that the majority of individuals were. Are you using homegrown solutions, something that's been homegrown built, or a mix of different tools that are kind of pieced together? Are you utilizing legacy solutions, SAP and et cetera, or a mix of, for example, your ERP and alike to be able to get the job done? Are you, though, otherwise using a best of breed solution like Kodiak Hub? So take a moment to just answer the question in the poll that is on screen now. What kind of tools are you utilizing for SRM? We see that 63% of those in attendance have now responded. If you haven't responded, please do so. We will move forward in just a moment's time. Fantastic. So thank you all for taking the time to be able to respond here. 71% of the audience has responded. Of that 71% of the audience that responded, we now see a breakdown of that 100%, 63% being on Excel hell, 22% being on homegrown solutions, and 15% of those on legacy solutions, whereas nobody in attendance that had responded to the survey has a designated best of breed solution for supplier relationship management. And while this is an improvement from last year's survey, I think that it's obviously more room for improvement as we, of course, continue to mature and technology continues to mature as well. One of the things that I think is no surprise by this is, of course, the fact that procurement is being left behind when it comes to tooling. This is a really, really sad statistic that Gartner published in their study, the must-have components of procurement technology business cases, where they went out to various global multinationals and surveyed leaders, asking them about the business cases that they're building to be able to get technology budget, where they found that only 17% of the technology that procurement wants is approved for the budget that they're asking for. So really, this begs the big question, right? Is it in fact that procurement technology is the issue, or is building the case for procurement solutions the issue, right? With this being said, I would love to ask yet another poll, again, really to take the temperature of those that are in attendance. What do you currently see is your biggest barrier for adopting SRM technology? Take a moment to be able to answer the poll that I've just launched here. What is your biggest barrier for adopting new SRM technology? Is it your time? You don't have simply it's the constraints of time. You have to be focused on very reactive and operational tasks, so you don't have the time to adopt new solutions. Are you struggling with getting budget? Are you struggling to find the right solution for you? Or is it a lack of team skills? Do you not have the right people in place to be able to make this a reality? So take a moment to simply answer the poll that's been launched. What is your biggest barrier for adopting new SRM technology? Well, it's clear here that those that are in attendance also find budget to be a big barrier. 63% of those that have responded so far said that budget is the number one factor, whereas others have said in the 2 and 3 spot that lack of team skills and finding the right solution collectively make up about another 30%. So if everybody has the time, it's obviously then about getting the money, right? With that being said, for us, of course, as a supplier management vendor, of course, we're a bit biased, but we see the clear benefits, not only, of course, in the market and the levers that one can be able to pull, but based upon the ways of working of our clients today that then also transition into our solution. So what I wanted to be able to do is share a little bit of those insights into, how do we help our clients to be able to build the ROI business case, but also what are some of those that you maybe could be able to take forward in your organization as well. The benefits of SRM are abundant and clear, right? You can onboard and qualify suppliers faster. You can get deeper insights. You can really automate a lot of manual tasks. But beyond the things that are the time savers, it's all about the abilities to be able to find opportunities, to spot risks quickly, right? To avoid those things as well. So when we talk really about the benefits of SRM, we like to talk about it within 3 different levels. Everybody gets kind of bogged down in this operational focus, right? What are going to be the overall savings on my day-to-day? The issue is, of course, is that the management team, the board, they're not talking the language of the day-to-day. Their focus is on what is the strategic value of supplier management and how can we be able to see long-term savings as well as those initial and short-term savings as well. When we talk about, the value that can be able to be delivered by our solution, but also, supplier relationship management technology in a broader sense, we like to talk about it from these different perspectives. Of course, time savings, but also the control of spend, the control of the total cost of ownership, and also, of course, the reduction of maverick spend as well, right? Getting your negotiation power in check, making sure that you have the same insights that the seller walks into the room with on the other side of the business. And then there's the strategic value, right? One that I think is all too often left behind. Why is, of course, it's hard to quantify risk. It's hard to quantify the loss of opportunity that is never created, right? And I think that the prevention of loss of brand and shareholder value is one aspect, but also the ability to be able to innovate with suppliers, right? The ability to be able to spot top performers, those that you can be able to trust within enablement projects and led innovation projects. These are the things that, of course, one is missing out on without good tooling and good process, but also the right people and the right focus on being able to do so as well. So when we talk, of course, about our supplier relationships, what is the importance, right? Going back to the case, the bottom line is that if you could do it yourself, you wouldn't have the supplier relationship. Research suggests that 55 to 65% of innovations are sourced through external partners and suppliers. This means that suppliers and partners, their contributions to the business are not just about that widget that you're buying, right? It's not just about, of course, keeping your offices stocked with pens and computers. They are focused on helping you with profitability and market competitiveness, which is incredibly important, right? So if there's anything that speaks to the case of focusing on managing this relationship, just in the same way that sales teams are managing their customer relationship, this is the statistic that you need to be able to take with you. The fact is that SRM, I think, as a concept, right, it unfortunately gets pigeonholed a lot, right? It kind of gets put in its little box. A common misconception, and this is kind of looking at the classical view of source to pay, and maybe I'm preaching to the choir here, but maybe I'm saying something new. Excuse me, of course, if you're already familiar with this, but I think that a common misconception is that SRM is just a subset of source to contract. That the management of suppliers mainly occurs during the sourcing process when you're qualifying new suppliers and, of course, onboarding those suppliers. And then post-contract, see you later. The management of the supplier and the relationship or the life cycle either goes back into the business or suppliers aren't really followed up with, right? Their performance isn't really gauged. We're not really following up on if they're remaining compliant. We're not really following up and trying to collaborate with them. We're not really driving those corrective actions. We're not really auditing them on the things that we should be, right? When we at Kodiak speak of SRM, and I believe the more widely and hopefully the more a widely accepted view of SRM is that it's actually a life cycle approach. It's end to end, right? This is how you should be viewing SRM, and this is what will help you to have a proactive approach, is focusing on the integrated model of supplier relationship management, just like customer relationship management, right? It's a life cycle approach, and there is a lot of value to be had from managing supplier relationships from the cradle to the grave, right? Otherwise, it's hard to gain any of those real tactical and strategic benefits because you're not going to be able to manage risk. You're not going to be able to manage the opportunity. And then, of course, that's going to create, kind of a situation where you're sitting around with a supplier base that you don't know is actually going to be able to deliver value to you in the end. The fact is, and we understand this is easier said than done, right? Because the bottom line is you guys got a lot going on. It's not an easy feat taking on supplier relationship management. And when we look at SRM, we like to look at it in this pinnacle kind of view, right? This pyramid view. The reason why we like to talk about it like this is because it breaks it down very clearly into the operational, tactical, and strategic values of the focus of supplier relationship management. And the fact is that everybody wants to get to this pinnacle of strategic supplier management, driving collaboration and innovation with suppliers, to locate opportunities for big impacts and savings, right? And carbon reduction and so much more. But the fact is that there's a whole heck of a lot to get right from an operational and tactical perspective. And these are equally the items that are the most time consuming and require the most effort from your team and your category managers, right? Top performing teams that we see, they work on a concerted effort within these three different areas, right? Within the solution of Kodiak Hub, or for example, within other means. But top performing teams work with these three different areas, but they also work with a blend of three other things, right? Because technology, what we're doing at Kodiak, is just one element of this. Any other technology provider that says that they have the silver bullet, they're lying to you. When it all is said and done, it's about you guys, right? It's about the people in your team having the right skill set, having the right focus, having the right attitude, but also having the backbone of good process, right? Because at the intersection of good process and good people, you have clarity and alignment. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody knows the importance of supplier relationship management. Everybody's going to have a focus on this, not only from the start, but continue throughout the life cycle of source to pay, right? Within the intersection of people and technology, your people are going to be more data-driven. You're going to be focused on not the gut feeling, but going into meetings with suppliers with a background and understanding of, this is your profile, right? It becomes more fact-based. It gives you a better negotiation power. And then in between technology and process, right? This is where there, of course, is opportunities for automation, right? Robotic process automation, making sure that the technology is also able to guide the process. Within that remains the big key thing, which of course is going to be your efficiency gains. And again, back to the way that you should be building out and thinking about how you can be able to build a case for supplier management, but be more proactive in your supplier management. Of course, the blend of these three things are incredibly important. Unfortunately, what we know is that 76% of practitioners that were surveyed last year and 61% of those of you that have surveyed this year, you guys are still stuck in a tech stack that looks familiar to this, right? The fact is that change is really necessary when it comes to the technology, but this is not only one of the things that is going to take you from being, reactive to being proactive. Again, it's about the people, the process, and also then the technology that's going to help you to be able to get there as well. With that being said, we do have some low-hanging fruit that we would like to talk about some things that maybe you could be able to start working with today before you adopt new technology, but also, some different frameworks that might be helpful for you guys to be able to start thinking about and getting your juices flowing as to how you can better build out your process or encourage your people and or find the right technology for you. So I wanted to share with you guys quickly just 4 quick tips to take your SRM from being reactive to being proactive as well. And after this, we're going to get into a quick flyby demo of the Kodiak solution as well. Before I do so, to get into these tips, I want to urge everybody and remind you guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat line. We will mark those particular questions and get back to them towards the end of the session as well. All right, so let's get into the 4 tips that we have. The first tip being something that we like to talk about here at Kodiak, which are the 4 R's. This is focused on not only towards your team, but also externally towards your suppliers. If you're going to make an SRM program really stick and truly transition from being, reactive to having a proactive approach, you don't need your team to be the only one that's bought in. You need your adoption to really be the change that's happening in your supplier base, right? Your suppliers have to be on board. If your suppliers aren't bought into your SRM ambitions, then you can just about forget about ever becoming proactive, right? Suppliers, just like the people in your team, the fact is this as well as I do, they don't want to be managed, right? They want to be led. And the 4 R's are necessary when leading your suppliers in how it is that they should be working and how you should be working with proactive supplier relationship management. The fact is it all starts with giving them a rationale. What is the importance of supplier relationship management? What does it mean to be a partner and a supplier of choice? Make things relevant to them, right? And this starts from the second that you're onboarding a supplier. Don't be sending your tech vendors a requirement that is focused on direct material suppliers and vice versa, right? Make sure that there's relevancy in the activities that you're doing with them, whether those be focused on, compliance or ESG or performance and the like. Make sure that you have a means of responsiveness and be there as the customer of choice as well, right? Make sure that you have an opportunity to feedback loops, whether that's improvements or corrections, different types of conformities or non-conformities, but also a means to be able to collaborate, as well as ensure that you have a means to be able to recognize when suppliers are in fact doing a good job. On top of that, make sure that you have the leverage here, right? And there's a few things that you can leverage. And this is the second tip, which is leveraging not only your structured, but also your unstructured data. And of course, I couldn't get by doing a webinar in 2024, especially November 2024, without mentioning AI in one shape or form, right? The fact is that AI will continue to permeate into our jobs and the way that we're working. AI is not the value proposition. It's just the work tool that's going to help us to be able to get there faster. And why is because AI can be able to help us make use of not just the structured data, but also the unstructured data within our businesses. Talking about structured data and unstructured data, exactly as it sounds, something that's sitting in relational databases or tables, a data point that you can be able to extract, right? Whereas unstructured data is really data that doesn't have a predefined formatting. So it could be something that's taken from a PDF or a document or an image or a post somewhere that's out there on the web, or scraping, for example, in some way, shape, or form, right? The application of use of structured and unstructured data is continuing to permeate within the procure tech space, and solutions like ourselves, but other solutions are continuing to launch new features all the time, which are then including the application of artificial intelligence to utilize unstructured data for supplier relationship management. These are just some of the applications that you can be able to see here. For example, you can be able to utilize natural language processing, which of course can utilize the contracts that you're having with suppliers or emails to extract information. There's things like recognition of images or documents, sentiment analysis, right? Is this a positive or a negative tonality? We know that there is the application of solutions like this to also help for pattern recognition. So for example, based upon what the solution has seen before, what could be a potential outcome and feeding those predictive insights, as well as then giving more contextual understanding. We've also seen this, for example, AI is very, very useful when it comes to translation and things of those sorts, but also being able to be there as a co-pilot as well. So this is the second tip, is to make sure that you're not just leveraging your structured data, but also unstructured data as well. And the fact is like this: if you're not leveraging unstructured data today, don't worry. Not many people are, right? Our applications within our mobile, within ChatGPT, are better than the business solutions that we have. That's a simple fact, and I'm saying that as a tech vendor. But the future is very close, and make sure the vendors that you're working with have a clear pathway of how it is that they're working on their AI strategy as well. The next big tip is to gain a 360-degree view. Going from reactive to proactive, it requires that you have a inclusive and holistic view of your supplier, not only from a performance perspective, but from a data and collaboration and document perspective. You have to have the basics related to, of course, the operational and tactical under wraps, so that you guys can be able to focus on those opportunities for innovation, those opportunities to drive performance as well, right? So it's important to have 360-degree dashboards that aren't just visualizing data, but are really driving you towards insights and driving you towards activities, so that you can be able to address the risks and the opportunities that exist throughout the life cycle of your suppliers. And that's kind of, I think, the last element before we get into the demonstration, which is have a life cycle approach. We talked about it before, right? It's an end-to-end approach when it comes to supplier relationship management. And being proactive also means having an approach of how you're going to approach your suppliers throughout the life cycle. But process is king here, right? This is a map that we utilize with a lot of our customers or also prospective customers, to give them an understanding of how does our solution fit kind of the classic supplier relationship management process, the life cycle management approach, right? From the second that you're onboarding or registering, qualifying a supplier, to in life cycle management with reviews and performance management and corrective action plans and collaboration, and how, for example, our solution has fitment. The bottom line is that hopefully this is a little bit of an inspiration to make sure that you guys go, maybe you have to go back to the drawing board. Maybe you already have a great process in place, but that there is a focus from a high level and also a more granular level of how it is that you're going to guide the good people and the good technology with great process as well. Without further ado, then, I would like to get into the demo. It's time for that. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask those particular questions as well. But before I get into the demo, I wanted to also launch a quick question, which is that if you would like to schedule a customized demo, which maybe you're not sure of now, we will launch this question out again later. Please feel free to click on this demo link, and you will be able to book in some time to learn more about our solution. Obviously, today, we're only going to scratch the surface of what the solution is capable of. So feel free to be able to click on that particular link now. We'll launch this again later if, for example, the demo entices you to be able to learn more during the session. So I will share my screen. All right. Everyone should be able to now see my screen. Just going to wait a second and make sure that I have confirmation from my colleague that everything is good on this. Very good. So like I said, we're going to give a quick flyby of the solution. You know, that is not the reason why we're here, but I think that it's important that everybody has a quick understanding, of course, of how the solution can be able to help you guys in your position, but also businesses that we're working with today go from being reactive to being proactive within their approach related to supplier relationship management as well. When it comes to the capabilities of the solution, they're vast. So again, we're going to just really scratch the surface. Let's see here. Sorry about that. Before we get into it, are we not sharing the slides here? to make sure that we're sorry about this. So we are having some problems. I apologize with sharing the screen here, it seems. Not quite sure why. There it seems as if we are able to now share this particular screen. Fantastic. So welcome into the Kodiak solution. Sorry about that slight technical difficulties. And we're going to go through, like I said, scratch the surface of what the solution can do, but also talk a little bit about how our solution is being utilized to go from being reactive to being really proactive in supplier management. In our solution, it all starts with trying to feed our customers insights at the moment that they enter into the solution. Again, as we talked about, our founder says it all the time. Businesses are absolutely drowning in information and starve for knowledge. And we recognize that that is the case within procurement. At a glance, when our customers enter into the platform, they can be able to see a global overview of their supplier base. From here, they can be able to get a quick view and glance of the contextual risks associated with where they maybe have suppliers located. They can be able to see a country risk rating related back to social, environmental, geopolitical, and also then financial risk. And they can also be able to see where they maybe have clusters of individual suppliers. From that particular view, they can choose to be able to jump in to dive deeper and understand more about a supplier. They can also use, as we see on the top bar here, different types of segmentation capabilities to quickly find suppliers that might be in particular groupings, whoever those might be as well. There's also an overlay of this, which is then related to risk. So we can be able to toggle on different risk parameters. These risk parameters allow us to be able to see, is there potential risk within the vicinity of maybe where we have a particular supplier located? In that case, if there is, we will then be able to be notified about that risk, not only in the notifications, but we'll also be able to see what are in fact those different types of risks that are natural disasters that are happening within the vicinity. Maybe we need to be able to set up some type of a business continuity plan, something of the sort as well. Before we dive into the supplier scorecards, I wanted to just give a quick orientation with some other parts of the platform. Insights, this is where we have deeper insights about our supplier base. It's where we see our supplier lists, those pre-configured lists or broader views of our suppliers. It's where we can import suppliers, add new suppliers, but also export suppliers. This is also then where we can be able to move over to the second tab, which is impact. This is where we can impact the relationship. This allows us to be able to roll out assessments, audits, and performance evaluations, as well as then also drive and manage actions with our suppliers, as well as then the intelligence tab, which is where we're able to get reporting capabilities. Different ways that our teams that are using the platform can be able to go, of course, from reactive to proactive is, of course, to be able to have guided insights. So somebody has left a note for me, no worries. I can be able to see who's left a note and when they've left a note. Is there a risk or flag, for example, that I need to be able to address? I can be able to dive into those insights very quickly. All of these things might seem very small, but the triggers, of course, that are turning that information into insights are the types of things that are going to help teams that are utilizing a platform for supplier relationship management to go from being reactive to being proactive. They're able to get ahead of things before they, in fact, become a problem. When it comes to the data management, there's a lot of ways to be able to manage data. There's a lot of ways to be able to pre-save lists. These lists can be able to be the things that, of course, are going to guide category managers or different procurement managers that are utilizing the solution to know how many suppliers are in that grouping, but also when supplier groupings are updated. So a perfect view of this would be, say that at one point in time, I want to be able to view my strategic suppliers. I could be able to have a view of these strategic suppliers that is always being kept up to date. And with that being said, I can also be able to pre-save different types of filters on top of that. So one, for example, might be that I only want my strategic suppliers that are flagged, that are of a risk profile, that maybe, for example, keeping me up to date with their overall compliance on a particular element. For that, there's the ability to be able to not only layer up the data and the taggings that are associated with the supplier, but coupling also some of that data that you're capturing from the supplier. Otherwise, unstructured data, until you create the opportunity that that data becomes structured data by capturing it within an SRM tool. So I can then double down and say, I not only want this list to be based upon the structured data properties, but also the unstructured data that I've then captured, which has become structured data, giving me a view then of those suppliers that are also code of conduct compliant, for example. Another way that a lot of our customers are becoming proactive within their management of suppliers is getting closer to the business, right? So when it comes to supplier onboarding, registration, and intake, we hear it all too often. It's time consuming, it's difficult, there's a lot of steps to be able to go through. We have Word documents or Excel sheets that then people are filling out, sending back, copying. The teams need to get involved. It's taking too long to go through the approval process. It goes on and on. I get out of breath just talking about it. When we look at, for example, this particular feature, which is our sign-up feature, this is a great way to go from being reactive to being proactive. This is an opportunity to be able to get closer to the business, hosting forms that, like you see here, that can be branded and look and feel like they're coming from our customers, which of course are going to be able to be completely customized based upon the data fields that are to be captured. But this can be a registration form that can be utilized both externally towards potential partners, giving potential suppliers or prospective suppliers the opportunities to apply to become business partners of yourselves. But it also gives the opportunity for the business, different types of stakeholders that maybe otherwise think it's, for lack of a better word, maybe annoying or stressful to work with procurement, to go directly to procurement and make sure that they, in fact, are able to onboard the supplier and vet a supplier before they are, in fact, going to start working with that particular supplier as well. So this is a great opportunity for individuals, not only externally that are potential suppliers, but also your internal stakeholders, again, to register suppliers on a system that then feeds insights, notifications, and different types of activities to the team within procurement. Where things get really focused on being able to be proactive is within our scorecarding capability. And this is where I just kind of want to highlight a few different elements. First and foremost, the ability to be able to host all of your data here, but also to be able to get ahead of changes in data and update those data properties, where that data is also going to be updated around the solution as well, right? Another way that you're able to, of course, get proactive with your data management is that within the capabilities of, for example, registration, but also self-assessment, you can have your suppliers manage their own data. And with that, of course, you can be able to keep your data up to date. You can be able to make sure that you always have the best supplier records that there is, and that the data quality is high, which can, of course, push elsewhere into your existing ERP architecture or alike, your data lakes, so that, of course, there is a solid base of data around. You could be able to communicate and collaborate quicker in the team, leaving notes for others internally so that one can be able to notify somebody else about a change or something that needs to be done. You can be able to also see here different types of third-party risk. A supplier goes bust. There's some type of financial troubles. No worries. The ability to be able to have continuous flow feeding in of updated credit results is incredibly important. And also flags that are keeping the understanding of if there is, in fact, updates to those credit results. Staying ahead of the different types of reputational risks that might be happening based upon media is incredibly important. Being able to keep those media insights up to date as well, but also at the same time being notified if there's any type of reputational risk linked back to those businesses from a sanctions or blacklist perspective, right? It's incredibly important in the geopolitical climate that we're in today that a 360-degree view of a supplier also includes, of course, a view of their owners, as well as then any type of subsidiaries, but also any type of lists that they might be on themselves. What is the exposure? Our capabilities with Trade Trust allows our customers to have this 360-degree view with financials and medias, but Trade Trust allows our customers to then have a view of the linked subsidiaries and or owners, as well as then any linked individuals, politically exposed persons, special interest persons, so forth and so on, allowing customers to be able to get ahead, right? To not just leave their head at home and say, okay, this is a risk supplier, they have sanctions, but why is this particular individual, of course, being mentioned as a special interest person? Is that something that you want to reach out to a supplier about prior to onboarding them and starting to work with them? These are the things that, of course, are going to help you to be able to be more proactive. Additionally, of course, the pillars of health. As we talk about the global rating up in the top right-hand corner is an amalgamation of a few different things. The country risk of a supplier, which is kept up to date by our team within the Safe Source rating. This Safe Source rating is giving an index, which is then a weighted average across countries across the globe, pulling from 40 internationally recognized indices, giving you a snapshot of the contextual risk that is important to your business, which of course is incredibly important for double materiality and materiality risk assessments, but also gives you an understanding of where should I focus more, right? Before we even start reaching out to suppliers. For example, suppliers in a particular region might have poor results in a particular area. For example, economic stability. There's a high inflation rate within Sweden. Well, maybe that gives me the opportunity, for example, to get ahead and be proactive and say, hey, we want to be able to make sure that there's no clauses for adjustment, for example, within your price levels if we're contracted with somebody in Sweden, because of course, we want to make sure that the inflation rate's not going to hit us within our price points. Same thing with sustainable practices, but this is linked back to the supplier themselves. Responses that you're getting from self-assessments or audits, the ability to be able to see their overall business practices, their ESG profile, as well as then also areas related to, product quality or InfoSec and data privacy risks as well. The ability to be able to configure in the assessment capabilities in the Insight module, the different types of question sets and questionnaires, but also the different types of data that you're trying to capture from your suppliers allows you to build up a picture of risk related to the things that are important for your business, just as you're able to within the performance evaluation, triangulate both the soft data, for example, from your internal stakeholders giving feedback, but also being very proactive, making sure that if there is hard data that is fed into your existing systems, your quality systems, your ERP systems, that it directly impacts the view of the supplier, that a category manager can be able to go into their quarterly review and understand where is a supplier doing well, but also maybe where is their performance in fact dipping. And the ability to be able to have historical views and charts of this to be able to understand how our suppliers progressing over time. Part of being proactive is not just about looking towards the future, it's also about looking towards the past, right? And understanding what is it in fact that we need to be able to improve upon with a particular supplier as well. Actions and ability to be able to collaborate and communicate with suppliers, incredibly important. This is where, of course, you could be able to get ahead of things. Is there, for example, some type of a corrective action that you need to be able to put in place? No worries. You can be able to work together with the supplier in our platform to be able to communicate back and forth, share documentation, work through different types of sub-actions, but also, of course, you can be able to have an audit trail the entire time, keeping you guys, of course, compliant with different types of requirements from CSDDD, LKSG, Transparency Act, and many others, DORA included as well, to be able to make sure that you're not just proactive in your relationship, but you're also proactive in staying ahead of those requirements that legislations are continuing to put on all of us as well. So that was a quick overview of the solution and giving an understanding of how our solution at Kodiak can be able to help businesses that we're working with move from being reactive to being proactive. And now I would love to be able to open up the floor to any types of questions that those in attendance might have currently. So please feel free to be able to ask those questions that you have. And while doing so, feel free also to be able to share if you would like to book a demo with the company. We have now launched again the custom demo link. Feel free to be able to click there if you would like to book a customized demo with the team. Fantastic. I see that there is one question here from Ronald. Ronald, the business network for Ariba. How does your solution integrate with the Ariba business network and Ariba guided sourcing? So just in the same way that our solution would integrate with just about any source to pay or source to contract solution, right? It's really a definition of the client, determining are they interested in starting the journey in our solution or starting the journey elsewhere, right? And of course, the push and pull of data or the trigger of data, pushing and pulling between our solution and another existing solution, whether that be a source to pay solution, an ERP solution, a data lake or alike, is very simple, of course. It's the matching of those data endpoints and the definition of what the trigger is that is in fact going to push or pull the data back and forth. So Ariba is definitely one of those solutions we can integrate with. We have vast experience, of course, with integrating into the SAP network when it comes to their ERP backbone, and Ariba is the same as well. Again, it's really just a determination in that process. Where does sourcing end? Where does SRM start? But also, where does SRM start and where does sourcing end? Because again, both of them need to take a life cycle approach as well. If there's any other questions, feel free to ask those. Happy to be able to take those particular questions right now. Additionally, I know that there are some people in attendance that maybe would like the handout. So we are now sharing the handout. Feel free to go ahead and download that handout if it's of interest to you. All you need to do is click on the download button and you will have the content of the slides that were presented today available to you. The question that I see now was also from Ronald. Yes, and thank you for being brave, Ronald, and asking questions. Other third-party providers, so we showed some of our preferred vendors, right? With that being said, we already have out-of-the-box integrations with EcoVadis, Dun & Bradstreet, and CreditSafe. Yes, those particular solutions, we have a bring-your-own-license methodology, which means that if it's not our preferred solution that you're utilizing, you can be able to link up to a solution that you already have that's out of the box. EcoVadis, Dun & Bradstreet, and CreditSafe are actually the three providers that we already have out-of-the-box integrations with. Integrity Next would be the other one that we already have an out-of-the-box integration with as well to visualize any of that sustainability or financial data in the platform as well. So thanks for that question. That was a great question to be able to ask for the Supplier 360. We do have a capability, of course, to be able to feed in supply chain performance data. It needs to be matched, however, Stefan, with the KPIs that you are looking to address from a performance perspective. Currently, we don't have forecasting capabilities. We do have the capability to be able to manage PO data and also link up with an ERP to push and pull PO data if you would like to between our solution and, of course, your existing tech stack as well. So that is capable, but we do not have any type of forecasting capabilities currently today. So thank you for the question. Great. If there is any other questions, please feel free to put them in now or forever hold your peace. I appreciate everybody's opportunity or taking the opportunity to be able to join for today's session. As an attendee, you will also not only have the opportunity to download the handout, which has been launched, of course, but you also will have the opportunity to see the playback if you would like it yourself or if you'd like to share with somebody else. And thank you all for taking the time to be able to attend today's session. We really appreciate it. If you're interested in learning more about us, you can do so either on social or, for example, on our website, www.kodiakhub.com. Thank you for your time.